Hi, everybody. So I have to get my other computer set up here. So you will not be able to see me tonight. You're just going to be able to see my computer screen. I thought maybe you'd be able to see the book better. So give me a second here, and I'm going to get the other computer going here. All right. Hopefully you'll be able to see me in a minute. And make sure you say something. Hopefully you can hear me okay. So make sure you say something, comment, so that I know that you can hear me. Looked like my microphone was working. So how is everybody this evening? I wish that I could see the comments come through on my computer when I do this, but I do have another computer. So I can look on my tablet. Actually, I have my tablet hooked up. So I'll be able to see your video or your comments here shortly. So, oh, here we go. My microphone was working. Just a minute, I got to turn off the sound. Okay. Oh, okay, I'm getting some comments. This is good. Hi, everybody. Can everybody see my computer screen and hear me okay? So hopefully you can hear me. I'm here and I can hear you. Awesome. So Deb, oh, hi, Joanne, Carol, all kinds of people. Hi from Boone. Hi, Carol. How are you? Pat, who else? Oh, Mary Ann's here. Margaret. Hi, everybody. Gail, all kinds of folks here. So tonight we're going to talk about I actually kind of like having the laptop up or the tablet, but there's about a 30-second delay, but I like it because then I can see the little thumbs ups and stuff. That helps me so that I know that you can hear me okay. And you can see my screen. Okay. Well, I'm going to go through some of the things in the book tonight, and I thought maybe it would be um, easier if I just shared my screen with you, because then I can I scan my book so that I can make a copy for myself to write in. I don't like to write in my nice books. So, and I know some of you don't have your book yet, and I apologize, but they are on their way. I need to I'm going to check on the fabric and stuff tomorrow. So I just couldn't do that today. So I could give you an update. But I called them last week and they promised me they would send them out last week. So I was hoping everybody would have all their books and everything before we did this, but you will be fine. And you can go back to this video later if you want and look to, go through the book as I'm going. But I wanted to show you some things about the fabric and the fabric cutting, how to read the book. I remember when I first started getting these Kimberbell books, and I really, really like their quilts, and that's what got me into Kimberbell was the quilts, because I like to make quilts and I love embroidery. And the books were very intimidating. So if some of you have opened this book, because I know some of you have it, it is a little scary looking when you open it up, because the first like 3 pages are full of fabric you need. And so we're going to talk through this tonight so that you won't be intimidated about it. I've come up with a couple of little methods that work well for me. And if there's things that you have come up with while we're doing this that's easier for you, let me know. And I don't want you to be scared of the book. I remember when I got my first book, it was Jingle All the Way. I got the book and I was so excited to start the quilt. It was so cute. And I opened it up and the first like 4 pages were full of fabric. And I looked at that book and I'm like, oh my gosh. And I just shut the book back up again and put it back on the shelf for like 2 years. And then I got it out again and I took a very deep breath before I went anywhere. And I took a deep breath and I got the book out and I figured out what to do to get my fabric. So many of you have ordered, let's just talk about the fabric for a second. Many of you have ordered the kit or had kits for We Whisk You a Merry Christmas. The kits are kind of the way to go because everything's sort of like bundled together for you and you don't have to try to find a lot of fabric. So I'm looking at my book here, and the first like 3 pages is all fabric, and there are 32 different fabrics in this quilt. This is small compared to some of them. Some of the bigger ones that I've done have had almost 50 fabrics in it, and it's a little scary to have to try to find all those fabrics. So if you've got the kit, all of the fabrics are in the kit that you will need to make this quilt. And there's a little extra of everything, so you don't need to worry about, not having what you need. And it's very nice when you have a kit because everything's right there. If you're going to go buy your fabrics, this is how I did it, because I've done 2 other ones that I had to buy all my own fabric. And I did Jingle All the Way, and I did Broom Hilda's Bakery. And I've done 3. And then I did Hello Sunshine are the 3 that I did. And so what I did is I opened up my book and I just kind of went up to 2 or 3 stores, and I just looked at the colors. And so then I went to Joann's and stood in front of the greens, and I tried to find the green fabrics that were in the book that looked sort of like the pictures. And then I went to the grays, and then I went to the blacks, and so on. And it makes it less scary by doing it in like clumping it together in like color sections, and then there was reds and so on. And so that's kind of how I picked out my fabric. I just got something that looked sort of like the picture, and it worked out just fine. I did 3 quilts that way with basically no fabric from Kimberbell. So it is possible, but I tell you, the kit sure is easier than having to try to, go to 3 or 4 or 5 stores and find the fabric individually. So for those of you who ordered your kits, I know some of you already had them, so that's wonderful, because then it's so easy just to cut the fabric out. Okay. So that's a little bit about the fabric. That's what I did. I either have a kit or I just take my pages. Like I actually just copied the pages with the fabrics so I could take them to the fabric store with me and not have to haul the whole book with me. And then I just went by color and just stood there in front of those colors of fabric at Joann's. And the little Walmart Nanamosa has a lot of basic fabrics. And I just went through and picked something out that looked sort of like what there was here. And that worked out very well for those quilts. So that's my little blurb about the fabric. Don't be afraid to go buy your own fabric. It's actually not bad. You don't need much. I mean, mostly, I think most of this one, especially the largest piece you need is a fat quarter. So you could go to a store and just stand in front of the fat quarters and pull the fat quarters out. So that works as well. So whatever works for you when it comes to the fabric. The fabric kits, like I said before, are supposed to be on their way. So I will let you know as soon as they get here. And they are sending, oh, hi, Dan. Oh, a bunch of people come in. Hello, everybody. I know they're supposed to be sending 1 of the 2 bolts of fabric I ordered, but I'm not sure if it's the black or the gray. One of them is still on back order, but we won't need, to be putting together until like August. So I figured it should be coming in about the time we need to be putting the quilt together. So we should be okay. Okay. So let's go ahead and talk. So we talked a little bit about the fabric. I've had a lot of questions about thread and what thread you need and what thread you should have for this. And, I know that Kimberbell does some thread kits. I don't normally I just use thread I have. And as a general rule, I match my fabric. So that's kind of what I do. Like I go in and I pull threads that match my fabrics. And for this quilt, I mostly used, I had a green, I had two greens actually. I had a darker green and a lighter green, and they were kind of mossy colored. I used white and black. I used a red. I used a silver, and then I had a light brown, and that's all I used in it. So you can use any thread you want. I don't think it's necessary to get a kit. And like I said, I only used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 threads in this whole quilt. And I think it looks really cute. So I matched, you know, the main green is kind of a mossy green. So I have one that matches that kind of mossy green. And then there was a little bit lighter shade of it. So I had one that was a little bit lighter shaded, but still mossy. I used the light brown. There's several pieces that had light brown, like the cookies and the little rolling pin and some stuff like that. I used white and black. I used red because there was nice red in there. And then I used silver for like the whisks and some of that. I used silver. And I think there was a little bit of a pink that I used. I think I used one because there's like a cupcake in the one block, and I think I used some pink. But as you can see, I didn't use a lot of colors. And you can just pick your colors and, like I said, kind of match your fabric. That would probably be a good rule to go by. Okay, so is there any questions about the fabric? You know, what to buy? A lot of you got the kits coming. Are you still intimidated by the fabric? The kits are so easy. Everything's almost in order as well for the cutting order. And that's what we're going to get into now. And threads, does anybody have any questions about the thread? Everybody's very quiet tonight. Hi, Jan. Oh, a lot of people have come in. Hi, Deanne. So, like I said, don't be worried about the thread. Whatever you have is going to be very fine. I have a tendency to use the brother thread for these. For some reason, when we started doing these, a little group of us have been doing them, and we were working at the store. And so I had a small box, a couple small boxes of brother thread. So I started using that because I could carry it to the store with me. And so I've kind of continued. So I usually use brother thread when I do this, but you can use any thread you have. So, okay. All right, so I'm going to start sharing my screen, and we're going to start talking about, a second here. I'm already sharing my screen. I'm going to bring up the fabric pages. So we're going to talk about, I thought maybe you'd be able to see this better. No, Colleen, you're going to use bobbin thread in the bobbin. There was no matching thread on this. It's all just bobbin thread on these. I don't think there was any like lace or anything. No, not in this one. There are some embellishments, but everything was done with just regular bobbin thread in the bobbin. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about, let me make this just a little smaller, how I set this up so that I can keep track of all these fabrics. Now, like I said, it was a little intimidating that there were 32 fabrics in this. And I know that Jingle All the Way had like 40. So that was the first one I did, and it was a little scary. So I thought, well, how am I going to keep track of all this? So what I did is, this is the fabric requirements list. It's at the beginning of the book. It starts on page, let me see here. Let me get it open so I can see. Starts on page 3. All right, so it's 3, 4, and 5 is the fabric requirements. This same chart also gives you what block, what purpose that piece of fabric has, what row it's in, and then the size. So you can keep track of the sizes of all the fabrics and everything. When you get ready to cut, then you can refer back to this chart so you know that you've got the correct piece for what you're doing. And so I know that sounds a little scary, but once you get going, it's very easy to keep track because it gives you all the information in this chart. Okay. So what I did so that I could keep track of everything, and as you can see on the screen right now, is I numbered the fabrics. I just started at the top of the list and I numbered it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have all these numbered all the way down. And the reason I know there's 32 is I numbered through page number 5, and the last one is a little yellow, and it's number 32. And then the last part of that section is options for the borders, binding, and backing. And so the kits will come with that green with the little polka dots on it for the back, the sashing. And then there's the outer border will be either white or black, depending on what you chose. And then there's a backing fabric, which I ordered and some of you wanted. So that tells you, so those are the only items that you need more yardage of. The other pieces are mostly fat quarters and little scraps and so on. So you can just go through your stash. You might have scraps that will work. I'm just getting to that, Denise. Very, very good idea. That's what I'm getting to. Okay. So I numbered all of these fabrics in this list, as you can see. Okay. Then on the bottom of page 5, it talks about the list of embellishments. Most of you have ordered the embellishment kit. There's a little bag that has all of the embellishments that you need for this quilt, and it's all in the bag. And I would highly recommend that option because otherwise it's hard to, you have to go find all of these little pieces of, you know, clear vinyl and felt and flexible foam and applique glitter. So it was just so nice. They started doing that. The third quilt was Broom Hilda's Bakery, and that's the first one that had the kit. It was wonderful because all I had to do was go to the bag and pull out what I wanted for that block. The first two, we had to run around trying to find all these little bits and pieces, and they've never made embellishment kits for the first two quilts. So anyway, that's what's in the embellishment kit. So most of you have that ordered. Then when I got down to the next page, and this starts on page, gotta look at my book here. This starts on page number 6. It shows you how to cut each color of fabric. So what I did is I went back to my original chart that I numbered 1 through 32, and I went and found its corresponding fabric cutting guide. Okay, here's the fabric cutting diagrams. And I went and found each piece and I numbered it here so that I knew which color I was working with. And so you can see that I have numbered all of these. They're not in order now as they were, but I went through and I found all the corresponding cutting diagrams, and then I numbered those that to match my original sheet at the top. Okay, so does anybody have a question about that? Does that make sense to everybody? So just go down your fabric requirements list and number them. And then go to the fabric cutting diagrams starting on page 6 and do the same thing so that those numbers all coincide. So you know what fabric you're working with in each section. Okay. Then what I did, I went through then, you know, I started at the top of the first page of the cutting information, and I ironed my fabric out and I cut the pieces as they state. Okay. A lot of the pieces are applique pieces. So if you're just a teeny bit off on your cutting, you know, it's fine. However, there is some piecing in this quilt. So you do want to be fairly exact with your cutting because there are some pieced blocks in here that you want your squares to be very accurate for the cutting. Okay. And what Denise said is that she said she's going to use sandwich bags for each block and label the block name in the row. So what I did instead, Denise, I'm going to show you. I actually went through, so like my fabric cutting diagram, the first one on the top on the first page was number 8. So I cut the squares that I needed for that color of fabric. I numbered it number 8 in a sandwich bag and put that in the sandwich bag. I did not put the blocks together. I just pull from my baggies because I find it was I didn't want to, I wanted to cut all of the colors together and put them together instead of cutting one fabric and then another fabric and then another fabric and then putting things together. So I just did each color separate and then I labeled those in a bag. And then when I go to do my block, I pull out the pieces I need out of my bags. And you can do it whichever works for you, Denise, because if that works better to put them all together, then you can do that. But I just did this. So let me show you my picture. So here's my little baggies here. I didn't do them all. This is just some of them. So here's my baggies. You know, like here is number, I can't read my own writing. This was number 6. So here's 24. Here's number 8. Here's number 28. Okay. So all of those fabrics are numbered in a baggie so I can easily find them. And that's how I did it. Now, some people will then do what Denise is going to do after they do this bag. Then they will actually go through all of the quilt blocks and then put the actual block together. And that is fine too. But this kept it easier for me just so I just go through my little bags. And when I go to do so I'll show you that in the next, one of the next pages. We'll talk about then, you can go through then and figure out what you need for each block, and then you can pull them out of your bags. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? And then, you know, your binding is this little black polka dots, your outer border, and your inner border. Now, I don't always cut my borders and stuff until I'm ready to put the quilt together. So I actually kind of left those until later. Okay. So I did those when I got ready to put it together. I just labeled them so I knew that that was what they were. Okay. So is that making sense to everybody what I did? I cut my fabric. Let me go back to that page. So here's that page again. So here's the cutting diagrams. And here was like number 8. I needed, and I don't know if you can see it very well. I'll make it just a little bigger. So like number 8, you need a 6.5 by 8.5 square, a 6.5 inch by 6.5 inch square. Here's another 6.5 by 6.5, and a third 6.5 by 6.5 out of that piece of fabric. And then I keep all the little extras because they have some extra little fun things in the back of the book that you can make. And often there's enough fabric left over from the quilt to make all of those little projects. Sometimes not everything, but there's a lot of it. You'd be able to do the little projects in the back. So don't get rid of your little scraps until you're all done. Okay. So I just went through and I started, you know, like with number 8, and then I did number 12. I pulled that fabric out and ironed it and then did my cutting, put it in a baggie and labeled it number 12, number 8, and so on. And then when I got down to some of these little ones, there weren't too many pieces. So like here's number 4 and 5 and 7. I just needed a couple small pieces. Okay. So that really worked well for me. We started doing that from the very first quilt. I just numbered everything and then I knew what I was, because there were so many fabrics. I was like so overwhelmed. Okay. So, and then the last, this is on the last page, which is number, I have to get it here a second. The last cutting diagram was on page number 7. And it is actually felt. There's little cookies on the one row of the quilt, and you put felt underneath of them. So the felt is under, the felt is in the package with the embellishments, just so you know. There's a nice piece of brown felt in there. When did I iron on the shape flex? Denise, I generally do that. We're going to talk about that in a minute. I generally do that as I'm getting ready to quilt that or to embroider the block. I just do it block by block. So I just cut my pieces of shape flex as I'm going. I don't like to cut very much, so I do it I do it a little bit at a time. Okay, so the last thing there is felt, and that is in the embellishment kit. For those of you who are getting that. So I was like, what is that last one? Then I thought, oh yeah, it's the felt. So, okay. So are there any questions about the cutting? Does this make sense? It takes a little while to cut. It's not hard, but it does take a little while. Just be watching your sizes carefully on the diagrams. And there was plenty of fabric in the kit, so you shouldn't have any problems. But just watch them carefully. Okay. So that is the cutting diagrams and the fabric requirements. So let me close this one, and I'm going to go back to the other book here. So this is the full book. You get down past those. I didn't have the numbers on this one, so I just scanned some numbers in so you could see what I had done. Okay, so let me make this a little bit smaller. The next page, let me get my other book open here. This is page 8, and it has some basic hooping and applique instructions. Also talks about basic instructions for the rulers. So for those of you who do not have, no, Cindy, the backing does not come with the kit. I did order backing if you want it, so you can purchase that additionally. I have some other fabric that I was going to use. So it does not, but the binding and the borders and everything come with the kit. Okay. So they give you some basic information on page number 8 regarding the embroidery. There's some applique, they talk about the applique materials, the rulers a little bit. The one thing that I do is that I do a little bit of different stuff with the embroidery, and we'll talk about that when we get to that in July. I don't use the tape. I don't tape things down. I actually use tearaway. I put the shape flex. So that's what Denise was asking about. So you want to get shape flex. Shape flex is like a preparatory material that adheres to the back of your background fabrics. We're just going to put it on the back of the background fabrics, not the applique pieces. I use a piece the size of the background piece. So like if it's 8.5 by 10.5, honestly, I'm a little skimpy with it because it's kind of hard to find right now. I use like about an inch, a half an inch smaller. So it like, instead of cutting it 8.5 by 10.5, I cut it 8 by 10 and iron it onto the back of the fabric. And I do that as I go. I don't normally cut everything at once. I kind of cut those pieces as I'm going. Okay. And then I iron them on as I'm using my, getting ready to do the block. And that works well for me. Okay. So you will need shape flex. I would highly recommend it. Otherwise, you're going to have some puckered. Oh, the Pellon number. Yes, shape flex is Pellon. It is S as in Sam, F as in Frank, 101. SF 101. And it works very, very well. If any of you have the Floriani Dreamweave, you can also use that. If you have some of that, that works well also. And it's a little bit softer than the Shape Flex. But I've had problems. I've had no problems with either one. Okay. SF, thank you, Lynn. SF 101 is what Shape Flex is. It's kind of hard to find right now. They must be using it to make masks. And so I'm having a hard time getting it. I like to buy it by the bolt because I go through a lot of it, and I'm actually having a hard time getting it right now. So hopefully everybody can get at least enough to do the quilt. There's not a lot of blocks in it. So I'm only putting it on the background pieces. I'm not putting it on my applique pieces. Okay. And then what I do when I hoop, and we'll go through this again when we actually do the embroidery, I put the shape flex on the back of my background piece. I know this sounds silly, but this seemed to work really well. I take fabric glue stick, the Dritz fabric glue sticks. That's the other thing I'd recommend you have around. I take the Dritz fabric glue stick, I put it on the back of my fabric that has the shape flex on it, and I glue it down to the center of my tearaway stabilizer. And then I hoop the whole thing. Oh, Colleen, you found some at Amazon? Oh, good. Now, because Joann's it's been really hard to find it. Yeah, I think people are using it for masks, Amanda. And I used it in mine too because I use it on a lot of stuff. It just gave them a little body. So hopefully, and I did find some when I was in Anamosa at Walmart this weekend. They had it in the little packages, so that people are getting it, and it is being, it is getting back in stock, just like the Clorox wipes. They had 2 shelves full of Clorox wipes this weekend. So things are starting to, I think, to be replenished, but I have had a little trouble getting the Shape Flex. So, okay. So that's what you want to put on the back of your background pieces. And like I said, I just do it as I go. I don't like to cut everything at once because I just don't like to cut that much. So I cut the whole quilt out, but then I do like that. I just kind of do them as I'm doing the blocks. Okay. All right, so let's go on to the next page. So this page number 8 is just kind of giving you some basic applique and embroidery technique. Oh, great. That's great that you got a whole bolt, Denise, because I mean, I use it a lot. It really, oh, good. That's good that they think it's good for filtering. I just used it, Amanda, because I had it. And I thought the masks needed a little bit more body. So, oh, good. So you did get some 15 yards. Good. Good, Mitzi. I'm glad that you're able to get it. So good. So yeah. So it sounds like it's starting to be available again. I ordered a bolt that I order from Brewer all the time. So I ordered about 25-yard bolt and it's still on back order, but I'm hoping it'll be coming in. Judy lent me some, so I'm still doing okay. Okay. So I use the dime stabilizer, which is the light tearaway. Denise, that is my favorite tearaway to use. I also have some pre-cuts that I use. So that's like, it's the dime light tearaway. But I do like, I just been using tearaway on everything because it comes off so much easier and then I can get it out. I think you probably could use a mesh stabilizer, but I think with the Shape Flex already on there, the tearaway is much better. Okay, so you'll go through some tearaway. Most of the blocks are small, so you won't be using very large pieces, maybe 9 by 12 pieces, because a lot of the blocks fit in the 5 by 7 hoop. Okay, but no, I use the dime for the most part. That's pretty much the only stabilizer I use now. I like the Floriani too, but I do like the dime stabilizer really well. Okay, so the next section I wanted to show you a little bit about, and we'll be talking about this when we get to the embroidery. This is starting on page 9. So this is the actual blocks. And what's cool about this book is that they put the blocks kind of in order of the rows. So like the rows are together. So the other quilts were kind of like, helter skelter. You would be doing some blocks and it would be in this section, and this is neat because they kind of did it in rows. So then that's why when I started putting mine together, I started putting mine together row by row because I was doing one row at a time. The first row does have quite a few blocks in it. It has like 10 or 11 blocks. But then what I do, as you can see on this page, like here's row 1A, here's the sugar jar is the first block. So what I did is I kind of look at the picture and I can see the colors of the fabric there. And then I go find the fabric and I'll write next to where it says fabric 1 background. I'll go find that fabric and I'll write the number down. I have to go back to my other chart that we looked at earlier. I'll go back and I'll write it down and find the colors. And if you notice then, like the first one is this white. So let's go back up here and look at that list. I think it's number, yes. So it was this one, which is in mine was number 31. That's the white that I used for the background of the sugar jar. And if you see here, you can reference it so you're sure you know you've got the right one. It says sugar jar background, row 1A, and it says it's 6.5 by 8.5. Okay, so that's how you can reference that you have the correct pieces. All right, so let's go back and look at the sugar jar again and pick out one of the other fabrics. And I just write these in as I'm kind of going. So like, here's the jar. The jar was that kind of green little plaid. So if I go back up to my fabric list, I can see that the green plaid is, I don't have the numbers on this one, but the number was number 12 on the list. It's number 12, and indeed it says sugar jar, row 1A, and it's a 4.5 by 4 piece. So that's how I can go back and forth and know that I'm getting my right fabrics. Okay, let's look at another piece on there. This is the lid, accent, and handle. So there's like a little, like a lighter red handle, and then like a little jar accent. And that one is kind of a pinkish color. And so I can't really see. So I'm going to go back and look at my pinkish colors. And then I can see, oh, okay. And again, I don't have the color numbers on this one. So this one was the one, it has like little flowers on it, and it's number 18. And it says that it's the sugar jar. It gives me the reference, sugar jar, lid, accent, and handle, row 1A, and it's 3 by 5. So does everybody understand how that works then when you go to find your fabrics? Unfortunately, they don't give you they give you a picture of the block here, but they don't give you like a real super detailed, it's kind of small. So you have to kind of pay attention to your fabrics a little bit. But the chart gives you the reference so you can go back and it tells you what it's for. Okay, so that's how we will be going through, and all of these blocks are done that way. Like if I go look at these cute little these little peppermints, it says there's 3 peppermints, and the first one, the background, is it looks like it's the black maybe with the little white polka dots. So I go back to my chart and look for that fabric, and it says, oh, it was like number 1 on my list, and it says peppermint 1 and the background, and it's 4.5 by 4.5. So that's how you can tell that you're getting the right fabric. Okay, so I go back and forth between these pages a lot as I'm doing this. And then you can always go in, and if you want to, right from the beginning, I actually go through, like if I'm going to be doing maybe 5 or 6 blocks, I go through and figure out what all the fabric numbers are, and I write it next to the fabric names before I start the 5 or 6 blocks I'm going to work on. You can do a bunch of them at a time. Yes, Jan, it does make it easier if you have the kit. It really does work really well with the kit. So, okay. So we've talked a little bit about the fabric. We talked about the thread, how to read the book, how to do the cutting. Are there any other questions? I didn't figure it would take too long, but I wanted to go through these things with you so that you were ready when we get ready to do this in, oh, what fabric is the sugar label? The sugar label, Mitzi, is actually, okay, so it is a piece of chalkboard fabric, and that is in the kit. So, and it tells you some information about the chalkboard fabric too. Do you want us to cut it before class? I would like you to cut your quilt out before we start in July. If that way you're ready to sew. And you know, if you want to sew along and kind of be working on it while we're working on it, then yeah, why don't you go ahead and cut it out beforehand. And that's why I wanted to talk through this a little bit, Margaret, so that you would know what to do the cutting. So that's a lot of these pieces then, like the peppermints, for instance, it says in here the applique glitter. So they have little asterisks next to them if they're part of the um, if they're part of the uh, accessory kit, like the little embellishment kit. Yes. So there is you have to prepare the chalkboard fabric. I don't know, you have to kind of like, they in the embellishment kit, they give you a chalk pencil, just so you know. And you have to kind of color on the chalkboard fabric, and then you wipe it off, and then you have to iron it or something. I can't remember what all I did. I have really horrible handwriting, so I actually just embroidered on top of my chalkboard fabric instead of writing on it. You could you use your own handwriting on it with the chalk pencil. That's why they give you a chalk pencil. But I just went ahead and embroidered mine. So, okay. So yes, so all of these, and then there's like, as we're going through each block, there's little instruction. Um, Oh yeah. Well, do you have the embellishment kit, Lynn? Did you get an embellishment kit? It'll be in the embellishment kit. Yes, page 9 told you what to do. I remember that there was a little thing in there that talks about how to do it. Yeah, so there's like specialty instructions on each block for if you have, like in this case, that was the chalkboard stuff. So it told you what to do. And then I just read the instruction, and it tells you, like up on the top, if you notice here, like on row 1 next to the sugar bowl or the sugar jar, it says special instructions. Well, that was about the chalkboard fabric. Okay, so if there's something special about it, they will tell you. Okay, the instructions are very good, and it's very easy to follow along. And like the peppermints, those are done with um, the applique glitter. So what do we need in between the front and back of the fabric? Oh, what do we need in between the front and back of the fabric? Well, Mitzi, you're going to put your shape flex on the back of your background fabric. The applique fabrics, we're just going to put down on top of the fabric. And then you will use tearaway stabilizer in your hoop. And so Lynn, you have the kit. Yes. So your chalkboard fabric will be in the kit, in the embellishment kit. Do you use the lettering in your machine for the jar labels? Actually, no, it's in the embroidery design. The jar labels were the lettering. You can leave it off if you don't want to do it. I just sewed it out because I didn't want to have to write. I have really bad handwriting. So it's actually in the design. And you don't have to use the chalkboard fabric. You can use another fabric if you want to, and just put the label on with the regular fabric. It doesn't matter, whichever you like. The chalkboard fabric looks kind of cool though, so. Okay. So as we go through each, and I want you all to kind of get, look through the instructions so that you get kind of familiar with what's going on. But all of the instructions are very clear, and then they tell you if there's something special about each block and how to cut each block. And we will be using the orange pop rulers a lot for this, because every block basically is cut with an orange pop ruler. Some of them are done, like there's some special cuts that you do with the orange pop rulers that you might use a combination of 2 orange pop rulers to do the cut. So it's very neat how they tell you to do this. Their rulers are a very common size, so they work with a lot of other quilts too. So I've used them lots of times besides Kimberbell, okay, because they're just very common sizes for blocks and stuff. Okay. So as we get into the embroidery, we will talk more about, the embroidering, and there are 4 rows. Let's go back and look at the quilt here. Okay, so there are 4 rows, and well, there's actually kind of 6 because you piece a couple of the little rows. The top row has about 10 blocks in it, so that first one takes a little time. Then there's a little pieced, the little squares underneath. There's a little pieced border that goes underneath. No, there is no batting, Mitzi. We're going to add the batting as one piece of batting. So, sorry, did you say the square rulers or rectangle? We will be using both, Jan. we'll use square and rectangle rulers because there's some rectangle blocks and some square blocks in this. So we'll use both. But no, we will not put batting in the block. Some people are doing that, but I like it. I like the quilt to be quilted through all the layers because I want the quilting to show on the back. So we're going to quilt it more traditionally. Okay, so we're going to assemble the entire top and then sandwich it with the backing with batting in one piece. So yes, you will need batting, but not till we get ready to quilt it. Okay. So then, so like I said, the top row, there's like 10 blocks or 10 blocks in it. And then there's a little piece block and then a little sashing piece. And then the next row only has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blocks in it. And then there's a little sashing piece. And then the next row has about 6 blocks in it. And then there's another pieced little row and another sashing. And then the last row only has 5 blocks. So I think there was only 26 blocks in it, a whole thing. So they actually go very quickly. They're very fun to make and none of them take very long. So I think you will really enjoy it. So that's why I thought we'd just spend 1 month talking about the blocks because I don't think you'll have any trouble once you get started. And then the second month we'll assemble the quilt. Because I think within a month or so, if you kind of work at it a little bit every day, you'll get the whole thing done so easily. The blocks are just very fun. Sorry, I'm saying somebody else. Oh, do you need both square? Yes, yes, Cindy, you need the square rulers and the rectangle. I don't know if you can see in the blocks, but like all the little cookie blocks are done with a square ruler. Most of them are done with rectangle rulers. There's a couple of other square ones in the top row. So yes, you'll need both. Okay. All right. So I think that's probably all we need to talk about. I mostly wanted to make sure you understood the cutting, how to number all the fabrics. Go into your book and write in, and number the fabrics so that you can go back and reference the numbers. And it really helped me a lot to have everything in a little baggie with a number on it so that I could just really easily find everything. So I'll show you my little baggies. Here's my little baggies again. Okay. So I just have all my fabrics. Now, when I cut this out, I actually cut 2 of these out at the same time so I could work on a second one while we were doing the class. So I just put all of the gray pieces and all of the number 24 pieces of which were red all together in the baggie. Okay. All right. So does everybody, is this making sense to everybody so that you can, once you get your fabrics, you can get your quilts cut out? It does take a little time to cut out. I'm not going to lie. It took me, a good share of a day to do it. But it's not hard cutting, but there's a lot of pet fabrics. So yes, Jan, I am going to quilt this like I did the little runner last night, but it's a little bit bigger. It's not any harder. But yes, that's how I'm going to quilt this quilt. So, yep. Okay. So are there any other questions? Does everybody kind of understand the book a little bit better now and how to read it? Sorry, my phone is ringing. How to read the book and everything? It really helps a lot to go through and just kind of number everything and have it that organizational thing worked better for me. So it was kind of hard to see just the fabric colors and stuff. And then I was using different fabrics for most of the quilts I did. So I really had to number them, so that I could keep them. Oh, it is a little scary. The book is kind of scary looking. And I really wanted to do Jingle All the Way, but Jingle is a much larger quilt. And I really thought it might be a little too much for everybody. Yes, Becky, we do have the pop rulers. I am out of them right now, but I will have, there's some coming in. They should be here in a day or two. So yes. No, Gail, we're actually going to do this over a period of 3 months. We're going to start in July and we're going to start working on the applique. the blocks. And then in August, we're going to put it together. And then in September, we're going to do the quilting. Okay. Oh, Marianne, no, I don't have any like written instructions for last night's video. You'll just have to watch the video. I didn't write anything out. I just quilted it as I went. So I think if you watch the video, you'll do fine. You've had a little experience with your oh, the directional fabric. Yeah, you know, some of the fabric in here is directional. It has words on it. So make sure you don't like turn it, or I made sure that all of my words were right side up. So you'll just have to, and it will tell you that it's directional. Like in the cutting instructions, it says it's directional, Judy. So yeah, so there is some of it that's directional. So you just have to kind of watch. And like when you go to put it in the hoop to do the block, just make sure that, you know, like your letters are the way you want them. I had to be just careful that I did that. Like you can see the quilt up on my screen now. One of the, there was a directional one on some of the cookies that had the little words. And I know the flour jar was, and then the back of one of the aprons. So you just have to, you know, pay attention when you go to put it in the hoop. But it does tell you how to cut it. Okay. So, so we will start then. This is going to start what, July? What is the date? Sorry, I need to look at it. I have to get my calendar up here. This one's going to be July 19th that we will start. So I will have your fabric in plenty of time for you to get your fabrics cut out and organized before we start the applique or the embroidery process. Okay. And I will get to you as soon as I get all that stuff in, and I will let you know when it's here. Okay. And we can send it, part of them to the Davenport store, part of them to Iowa City, and so on. Okay. Are there any other questions? So is everybody ready to start? And if you've got your fabric already, are you going to start cutting? It does take a little while. I usually cut it over a period of, you know, a couple of days, so I don't have to do it all at once. But I think I did these all the same day because I needed to get started on it. Okay. I'm not sure what you're asking, Deanne. Is there enough fabric allowance in the kit to cut bag files? I'm not sure what that means. SVG, not bag. Oh, okay. Yes, you can use the SVGs, and those come with it if you want to cut your fabric that way. But if you just cut your pieces, then the pieces are large enough that you can cut the SVG files out of the pieces you cut. So just cut it as it says, and there's plenty of fabric. If you look in the back of your book, I was going to show you that real quickly before we end here. If you look in the back of the book, there's usually enough leftover fabric after the quilt that they have these really cute things. So like there's a little couple of tea towels in the back of the book. Let's see, there's 2 of them. And I'm sure there'll be enough that and then there's a really cute apron. They either have a child's apron or an adult apron. And I think there might be a little, let me look here, I'm kind of buzzing up here. I think there might be there's some placemats. So there may not be quite enough fabric, but I do generally have almost enough. Oh, the dates for August and September. They're up on the group, Mary. I don't have my calendar in front of me here. Just a second. August is the 9th of August, and September is the 13th. There's some placemats. What else was there? Yeah, and then in the back of the book, the back pages are like the color charts for the embroidery. So you do have, they do give you some ideas of color there. And like I said earlier at the beginning, I just kind of match my fabric is how I do the colors. And I didn't use hardly any colors in this. It was under 10. So then you don't get worried about the threads or anything. So, okay. So make sure you look through your book and get familiar with it and understand, you know, where we're going and what rows and all that stuff. So, okay. And although that stuff will be coming shortly, does this start then on the 2nd Sunday in July? I believe it is the 2nd Sunday. No, it's actually the 3rd. It's the third Sunday in July because I'm taking the 5th of July off. That's why I wanted it to be the second Sunday, but I wanted a weekend off. So I took off the 5th of July, and we're going to have a software class on the 12th, and We Whisk You is on the 19th. Okay, so it's the 19th of July that we will start. Okay, anybody have any other questions? Thank you for joining me 2 nights in a row, everybody. And if you have questions, please message me or email me about this, and I will get to you as soon as I know when the fabric will be here. Okay. All right. So I think we're set, and I'm going to get all my stuff organized to get ready. And I'm also putting up the new software class that will be for July. It's July 12th. For the software class, I made a really cute little project, and I'll put that up on the group, on the sessions on software group, probably this evening. So I'm just about done with it. It is a very fun project, Donna. You will really enjoy it. It's very fun. And this was a very nice quilt to start with because it wasn't too big, and it didn't have a ton of blocks, and the blocks are very quick and easy to make. Okay. All righty. So if you have any questions, let me know. And I will be at the store tomorrow through Saturday. So if you have any questions, and then hopefully the fabric comes in this week. I'm so excited about seeing all the fabrics. So, okay. So good night, everybody. Thank you. Have a good evening.